Good morning, everybody. This is Heidi Arate with the State Department of Education, and we are doing a Q&A webinar. This is the second part to our support system for our districts in helping reach out and touch them electronically. So we are so happy that you're here. Danielle Taylor is here assisting me, and we will get started. We also, I wanted to point out, have a couple people from iStation on the line to make sure that I mind my P's and Q's. So Jamie is on the line if you have any iStation questions, as well as Suzanne and Lori. So thanks you guys for being here. I appreciate it. A couple logistics. First of all, please leave any questions in the question box. We'll try to answer those as soon as possible. We will have the Q&A and the questions and answers typed up and ready by the end of this week, but we will be posting the second webinar for this part, which takes place on November 8th, and that will include closed captioning. Oftentimes what I do is I will tie in some of the questions that are asked in the first webinar into the second so that it's more comprehensive. So the second webinar is usually the more comprehensive one. If you are on the first webinar, that's great. I would just recommend that you at least read the questions and answers from the second webinar in case there was anything that was missed. So the purpose of today's webinar is to support the schools and districts with any new questions that have arisen from after training or any current questions that you may have in supporting your students with iStation. If you have any questions after the webinar, please make sure that you give me a call or email. So here we have the implementation plan. You guys will see this on every webinar. Basically, I just want to make sure that everybody understands the implementation plan and understands the hierarchy. So I have included myself with the district implementation coordinator, and that's how the communication needs to flow. So if anybody in your district, please help them with this hierarchy and understanding that the district implementation coordinator, the questions need to go to them at their district, and then those questions will come to me from that person. The reason I'm addressing this is I'm getting quite a few calls from teachers or from other staff, and because the districts in Idaho are so independent, it's very difficult for me to answer a specific question, and so I just refer them back to the district itself. And so to try to maybe clear some of those things up, I'm just reaching out and letting you know about the plan again. So thank you so much. Parent letters and brochures. So we've got some good news and some bad news. Good news is that we have a parent letter, and it was created back in August. And you are able to use it if you'd like. You do not have to use it. We also have a brochure that's been created. So that's the good news. Bad news is it has not been translated yet into Spanish, and I am still looking at pricing for professional printing and making that a possibility. However, I don't know how soon that will be completed. So I apologize for the delay, but if you would like professional copies, I'll reach out when we get those done. So this is just a review of the subtests. This was some confusion during training, so I just wanted to make sure that I addressed it again. So students will see these specific subtests at the beginning to gauge how much the student knows. That's the whole piece of a computer adaptive test. When different subtests enter into the child's assessment, it depends on the skills acquired and how they test. So for example, a first grade student might not receive the connected text fluency because they're not quite there yet. However, they could receive it by the end of that year just because of the skills of reading are increasing. And so students will eventually see all of these. Most of them will begin to see these subtests at the beginning, but they will be in different order depending on the student because it's computer adaptive. Benchmarks. We talked about this in training. Remember, the fall benchmark, it's not really a benchmark, but that's what we've used as vocabulary. So it is a screener and a diagnostic. We're looking for the spring benchmark, which technically would be a benchmark. And if you are looking at any projections for goals, I wanted to let you know that I will be meeting with the special education department and we'll be looking at some guidance for you to set up some goals for students. However, this is just a quick view of the spring benchmark, which remember is just the month of May. So you're going to set your goals using, oh, I just totally forgot what's the name of this. The tier, Jamie, what's the name of this? Tier goals. And it's right off the teacher resources. Okay. Instructional tier goals. Thank you so much. See, this is why I need you. Instructional tier goals. So you can see on here what students, depending on their tier, where they should be lying. Now, if you have a student that is intensive, and yes, we would like to see those students at benchmark, but that is not always the case. They're not going to be able to reach benchmark in the first month. It's a process over the year. So this is what the tool that you would use when setting some goals. Like I said, the special education department and I were meeting and we're going to create some guidelines on goal writings for districts. It's going to take place this Friday. So I'm looking at probably within the next couple of weeks, we'll have some guidance and I'll make sure I send that out to everybody. Accommodations was something that we talked about quite a bit at training. I just want to reiterate to everybody that no, I do not have accommodations written out. For example, a one-to-one, some of those things that are good for kids. You need to use your best professional judgment. Make sure if it's in the IEP that you're abiding by that. The two embedded accommodations we do have are the language and the speed, but remember, because this test is nationally normed, that if you do that during the fall and spring windows, that figure will be taken out of the final calculation. So we would like people to not use, in particular, the timing accommodation during that time. Otherwise, you can set the timing accommodation. Just make sure that with your district, you're following the certain procedures and policies set in place. Another clarification that came about with training is that at the end of the subtest, each one of the subtests, Alex Trebeek will appear with a graph, okay, the end shot. And when students see the screen and you'd like to pause, I would make sure that you have kids give you a thumbs up or raise their hand. But also, I was explaining to people that they would see the sunset at the end of the assessment. And I've come to learn that if districts have the curriculum, students will not see the sunset because it was created, this assessment was created to work with the curriculum, so students didn't necessarily know when they were taking the test and it wouldn't stick out. And so I want to make sure that I tell you guys, remind you about the ISIP button and make sure that students are watching for the ISIP, the blue box that appears below. That is going to tell you when a student is taking the assessment. So make sure students are aware of that. The ISIP assessment reports, I just highlighted this student summary report because it's the most popular, especially right now during parent-teacher conference time. And it's usually the first report that you can show parents because there'll be at least 1 to 2 data points, okay? Also, just a side note, some districts are using this as part of their exit criteria. When students are exiting their schools or districts, they're printing this off and putting this in their CUME folders, and it tells a good comprehensive score for that student in the IRI. Here are some training hints in case you missed them. Make sure to incorporate logging off for students. So like I said, I'm talking to iStation on how we can make that a little bit more clear. And if you could please review with your staff and students that closing the laptop lid, it causes several testing errors. So when a student closes the lid, the information was not able to be sent to the servers at iStation, and therefore a score was not incorporated. So please teach the students to log off, and teachers for that matter, please log off. On demand, I just wanted to reiterate to make sure you follow your district's policy. It's set up at a district level, okay? And so please make sure that you're talking with your district implementation coordinator about what your district is wanting. On demand should not be used multiple times in a month. We need to let the assessment do its job, and with the computer adaptive piece, if we're scheduling too many on-demand assessments, then it overrides kind of the process that's happening. So please make sure that those are far and few between and very intentional. Credits for participation. Please submit your B7 form no later than tomorrow, October 31st, and I will start creating certificates and send them to staff. In case you didn't hear about this in training, you will just make sure you need to have a charter administrator or superintendent sign off on your B7 form. The credit hours are usually 15 to 30, depending on how many hours that you have spent, including training time. And you are going to scan that and email that back to me so that you have a copy. Then I will print you a certificate, and that will be the final part for recertification. Remember, you can't have all of your recertification hours from the B7 form, district hours. So fall trainings. A couple things I learned. One was that I am not a media specialist when it comes to recording. So the recordings are not in the best of shape. I'm trying to piece together some of the information, and I'm working with iStation. So remember, it's proprietary information that iStation has, and so it has to go through several different reviews. I apologize if this isn't something that I could just turn around and send you within a week. However, they have to review it. We have to review it. It has to be accessible, which is another week plus. So I'm still working on it. Some of the parts of the recordings may not work. Some might work better than others, but I'm going to try to get something out. I learned a lot with the recordings, so maybe next time it'll be even better. But I am going to try to get something out for participants that weren't able to be there. I just wanted to let you know we had 525 participants from the 6 different regions for training, and there was very positive feedback. So I appreciate the positive feedback, and everybody really enjoyed the training, thought it was worthwhile. So fall data. I was hoping to have some more information for you today, but unfortunately, our data is in IT, and it's being vetted at this very moment. So I'm not able to give you some preliminary numbers, but I can give you some data. There was 90,506 students that tested for the fall IRI window. There were 68 test incident logs from the districts with 164 student IDs in the listed incidents. I just want to reiterate, please make sure when you log a test incident that you use the student's EDU ID number. the 9-digit number that comes from the state of Idaho. And then I just put on here that one of the business rules is we will associate the test result with the school where the student was enrolled on September 30th, regardless of where he or she took the test. So that's just part of the business rules when we're looking at students and trying to figure out how we incorporate certain students with districts and schools. This is the legacy data. Like I said, I was hoping to have some preliminary data. What I can tell you is that it seems to look very similar. And having said that, I want to make sure that I reiterate that the fruit basket analogy. So remember that before we were looking at a banana, and now we're looking at a full fruit basket. So we're looking at multiple different measures and many different domains of reading. So even if the percentage is something that's similar, it's a very different picture. So I just want to make sure that people understand that when you are looking at the data. And like I said, I was hoping to have this. We're waiting for that to be vetted, and then as soon as it is, then we'll have that released to districts and the public. Some other resources, just as a reminder, we have a new Edmodo information. The new group code for this 2 weeks is KSEEYW. Our small group name is the new IRI ISIP by iStation. The Padlet information is where Jamie has posted all of the training documents as well as the parent brochure and the parent letters. So if you would like access to that information, it's there ready for you. You should have received it in a follow-up email, but if not, it is there. Stay up to date with assessment. Remember, we have a November monthly assessment accountability webinar. It's on November 14th at 10 a.m. Please join us. It's for timely updates from all of the testing coordinators on their assessments. We know that things can change, so it's always a good idea. We do record that and then post that. Also, we have newsletters on the first and third Wednesdays of each month, and so you can subscribe there. And finally, my information, you can contact me. The best way is actually email. I can get back to you right away, but don't hesitate to leave me a message. Here is iStation's support information, and I just want to thank iStation for being on the call today. Is there anything that you guys wanted to add for the participants? Jamie? Or Suzanne? Oh, yeah. So Jamie reminded me that they have a second video that's available in the cards on the website. So it's under the secure website for iStation. We have a second Idaho video that was made especially for you guys. So please make sure that you check that out. There is a small quiz that goes with it as well. It's Idaho Video Series Part 2 and a quiz. I hope that all of you are doing well. Yep, and the video can be found on the homepage under the boards and cards. So you'll find that under when you log in with your secure information. If you have any other questions that you would like answered for the next webinar or anything that just occurs to you, please email me and let me know so I can address it on the next webinar. Everybody seems to be doing well. I think we're looking at data, we're looking at our core content, and I think people are very excited overall on the data that they're getting so that they can they can properly change instruction for kids. So that's the great piece. Any other questions from participants? Thank you all for being here. If you have anything, like I said, that hits you in the middle of the night, you're welcome to email me, and I'll address it on the next webinar to make sure that everybody has a clear understanding, or I will make sure that I give you a call back. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure working with all of you. Thank you.